Hey YouTube, welcome back to the Obi Thorin Alliance. What are we doing today, Jacob?
Doing a educational or discussion about a disability topic.
Okay, so what's the topic?
Talking about if someone isn't educated about people on the spectrum, whose job is it to educate them?
Okay, so if you want to find out our thoughts on that, stick around. So, what brought this about, Jacob, this video?
It just came to my mind.
Came to your mind. Is this something you've encountered in your life where you think that other people have lacked education or benefit from having education around interacting with people with disabilities?
I think so. I think education is important, but sometimes people don't want education unless it's important to them.
And where do you think they should get this education from?
Well, school is important, but if they don't get it from school and they don't have family members who aren't people on the spectrum, they probably wouldn't have that background.
Yeah, and do you think it's something that everyone should have, or is that unrealistic to expect people to have education?
It's probably unrealistic.
But it would be important to at least have some kind of education, or at least be open or understanding to all walks of life.
Yeah.
Because obviously there's going to be, whether it's race, gender or disability, you and I are not going to know the best way to interact with each person or how each person wants to be spoken to. The best we could do is be open and understanding to, or being able to at least identify when something's a bit different and you may need to vary the way you interact with that person.
Yeah.
I guess like an example would be, came across someone that speaks a different language to us, we're not just we'd hope that you'd be smart enough to realise that person, there's a language barrier and you're going to have to find different ways to communicate. You're not just going to scream at them in English until they understand and hope they're going to eventually understand what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the same when interacting with someone with a disability, or more specifically someone on the autism spectrum.
Yeah.
You may have to, don't just assume that person can comprehend what you're saying, or the way you're communicating to them makes them understand, or even you might be making someone feel horrible the way you're communicating to them. So being able to pick up on that.
Yeah.
What are some scenarios that you've encountered where you think that someone could have been more educated?
Guess at the mention.
Yeah, elaborate.
I guess sometimes, unfortunately, if you don't interact when you're younger, you don't get that experience. So when you get older, unfortunately, you don't want to change, so it's that kind of barrier, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I guess as things become more spoken of, or people gain education on it, I guess generations past probably missed out on that. So they're going to, unless they actively seek that education, they're going to be, unknown to it. So I guess it's like generations younger than us are going to be way more aware of diversity, pronouns, maybe even education around disabilities, because it's more taught as time goes on, where I guess people of an older generation wouldn't have had that. I guess we have that kind of thought that people that are older could be stubborn, or sometimes even seen as offensive or racist in some circumstances. But I guess if you haven't been educated on that, or that's the time when you were educated, that's how things went, it's hard to try and change your ways, or it's hard to expect that you would have, received the same knowledge that we did when we were growing up.
Yeah, is it up to the person on the spectrum to understand that not everyone understands you?
I think there's some kind of, it is a two-way street, but you can't expect everyone to be understanding. But at the same time, depending on the disability or impairment a person has, may not have that insight to know that. If you were able to acknowledge or notice that other people, that the people you're interacting with aren't picking up on your disability or not interacting the correct way, then you would obviously have a high level of insight, and you'd be able to make a change. But not everyone would have that. Sometimes, and I don't know if you've encountered this, you might be interacting with someone and go, and like think that things are going well, but from an outsider perspective, someone might go, well, they're actually being quite mean to this person with a disability. They're actually being facetious and picking on them, but the person with the disability is noticing those cues, because for instance, if you're on the spectrum, you might interpret things exactly how they are, but you're not picking up on the sarcasm or the tone in the person's voice, and they're actually being quite rude and offensive, but you're just hearing the words and comprehending that. So I guess it's hard to know that, like, not everyone's going to have that level of insight and realize that this person isn't comprehending or isn't interacting the way I want them to.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so I guess from the original question, it's a two-way street, that both people need to have some kind of understanding of each other. But if you're not educated on it, then it's hard to know. But I guess the key is to either be open or not ignorant. Mention people at the men's shed and they might be of an older age. It's unlikely to expect them to go out and seek education at an older age about interacting with someone with a disability. But I guess it doesn't take a genius or a high level of education to realise that some things are just not nice or inappropriate, and just to find a level of understanding.
Do you think sometimes it's good not to be able to pick up on things because you just, you live your life?
I guess it has its pros and cons. We've kind of talked about this before. Being on the spectrum be seen as a disability or a superpower, and I guess it depends how you want to look at it. Being able to see things as they are and not picking up on certain cues can obviously give you some focus and a different perspective of things, but then you may also miss out on certain things. For instance, sarcasm is quite an obvious one to think about. Like if someone says, like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to go to the shop." Yeah, right, kind of thing. And you're like, "Oh, so you are going to the shop," but it depends on. If you don't pick up the tone, you don't realise that's actually sarcasm. That means the opposite, where I guess tone can give context to words, where if you only see words as they are. But in other circumstances, that can allow you to be quite literal. So in terms of solving crimes, for instance, that might come in handy because you see the facts as they are, opposed to getting caught up in the emotion. So it depends on the situation. What do you think?
I think it's good to talk to someone with respect and kindness, but not everyone thinks like that.
Yeah, that to me I think is the biggest issue. It's hard to expect education of everyone, but understanding, or at least an attempt of like compassion and understanding, is the best you can hope for. Because mentioned before, we don't know how to interact with every single person, and even if you think you do, there's going to be a spanner thrown in the works at some point. Two people's experiences, or like the way you need to interact with two people that both might be on the spectrum, are going to widely change. Just like two people from a certain religion or from a different culture are not going to be interacted in the same way. So you think you know everything until you get proven otherwise. So I guess being open and accepting that you don't know best is probably the best approach to have.
Do you think it's good having expectations of other people, or sometimes it's good not having any because you don't get disappointed if they treat you badly?
It's an interesting one with expectations. I guess depending on the scenario, it can be good, but ultimately when you expect something of people, you almost set yourself up for failure. If someone meets your expectations, that's a pass mark basically, because you expected it. But when someone doesn't meet expectations, you're disappointed. So your options are pass or failure, where if you have no expectations, someone can kind of go either way. You can go, "Oh, I was blown away. I didn't expect that of you because I didn't have any expectations." Or I guess you're less likely to be disappointed if there's no expectations put on someone. But then again, it's every scenario is different. How do you feel? I know you like to use the term expectations a lot.
Yes, I always like to have expectations, but if you have too much, you get let down, and then you always be surprised with different people that don't know much. Because what I've learned through my life experience is that if people don't have someone that they love or know on the spectrum, or they don't have that passion to know about disability or things on that nature, well, I guess is understandable, because why would they want to know?
Yeah, it's one of those things. If you don't have a reason to know something,
why would you care?
Yeah, you could put it in that way, whether or not, why would you care? But I guess it could also be seen as, well, it's something you don't need to know. Like, I don't, I have no need to know how to play the piano, so I'm not going to actively seek out learning the piano kind of thing. So it's a, where, if my son, for instance, really wants to learn the piano and he would like me to help him, then I have a reason to go learn so I can then help him. So I guess you're not going to know everything, but and unless you have a reason to learn it, you're not. But I still think the key is to being open, or at least being honest, saying, hey, I don't actually know how to do this, or I don't know how to interact. Could you please assist? And then that will obviously depend on the person you're interacting with, how they take that, or whether they have the insider ability to explain to you what they want. Like, I guess an example would be is if you're interacting with someone who's deaf, for instance, and you don't know how to speak sign language, then how do they communicate to you that they want you to speak a language that you don't know? So they're going to be signing at you, or even if, well, I guess you could write it, handwrite it, but depending on it, you couldn't even communicate that I want you to learn how to communicate back to me, and then obviously it's a whole long process to learn how to sign. Everyone, just again, every scenario is different, but being open and honest that I don't know this, could you help me? And hope that the person on the other end can either accept that or can give you insight on how you can be helpful.
So I guess, is it up to the person on the spectrum to go, not everyone is going to understand, or is it up to the government to go, well, we don't want people to take advantage or discriminate, because what happens if a police officer, for example, goes, oh, this person is on alcohol, drugs, or somebody's just on the spectrum.
Yeah, I think the role is for like government, schools, education bodies to put out information to assist people. Whether or not people take that information on is another story. Making it mandated, it's near impossible. Where does the list end if being educated on disabilities and so many wide varieties of topics became mandated? You wouldn't have time in the day to actually learn maths or English at school or science. You'd just be learning about every facet of life and interact with people. So that's kind of somewhat impractical. But having the information available for people to access, I don't think you could put the expectation on the person with the disability. That would almost be implying that it's your fault that you have a disability and therefore you have to accommodate for other people, which is never correct or right. Saying, if someone's getting discriminated because of the color of their skin, you're saying, oh, well, that's your fault for having that color complexity of skin, and you need to accommodate so that other people don't be racist to you. Like, that's not right. Like, the person in the first place that's being racist shouldn't be doing that. It's not the person that's being perpetrated against his fault.
Do you think we've improved from the 60s when the government and things took people from the spectrum and put them in institution camps?
Oh, for sure. We've changed, whether I think education's part of it. I think as a society we've just grown to become inclusive. And we've gone from moving beyond disabilities. Like, you think back to the 60s, there's women couldn't get bank accounts without the approval of their husband. You couldn't vote in lots of countries. There's so many things you couldn't do just because of your gender. So when you're already discriminating half the world because of their genitals, of course there's going to be discrimination against they're on the spectrum, or it's in somewhat slightly different than what would be considered the status quo. And we're seeing lots of wars and things come about because of people discriminating against someone just because they're different than them, whether Nazis not disliking someone because they're Jewish. It's just, there's lots and lots of examples of cultures that are intolerant, where we're definitely moved from that now.
Where's the next step?
The next step, I think, continued education. I just think it's, the more something's talked about, the more it becomes like known, basically. Like, if you can't actively seek out education, or sometimes it's hard to seek out education about something that you don't know about or a type of person you don't interact with. But as the media starts to normalize things, then it changes. So I think as you see, I think shows and movies are probably the best place to start. The more you see diversity in characters, whether that be gender or disability or race, that allows space for education. Shows that we've discussed, like Atypical, Love on the Spectrum, as people watch those, you become more aware of what it's like for someone on the spectrum, so that educates you. Also, as you start to see in shows where even the main character isn't, like, it might be a side character that's on the spectrum, you start to see it being normalized and more representative of what real life's like, and then people become educated that way. Obviously, the media isn't going to represent correctly every time, but I think over time they'll become more and more accurate, which we've seen when we've discussed. I think the accuracy of characters in some of these shows are pretty spot on. Obviously, it doesn't represent every person on the spectrum, but that creates an insight. You go, I guess even wording, like people in the past wouldn't have even known what the difference between autism and Asperger's is. They wouldn't understand what this concept of a spectrum is. A lot of disabilities would have been grouped together. Someone would have considered someone on autism, Asperger's, and even Down syndrome all as being the same thing without education. But now, as you see better representation, you start to see that there's a difference between all. And then I think that's the key. I think actually TVs and shows is probably the easiest way to reach a large audience. If you put out a documentary, not that many people are going to watch it. You create a sitcom like The Big Bang Theory, and it's one of the most popular shows of all time. You're educating a lot of people in a fairly easy way. So I think it's through TV and movies.
I agree with that. Sometimes I think because we are all human beings at the end of the day, just trying to juggle life, and I personally don't blame the other person. I think they're trying their best as well. I think it's about juggling, understanding, I think is the key.
Yeah, definitely. Juggling, understanding, everyone playing their role, and then unfortunately you're going to encounter people that are just plain ignorant, rude, going out of their way to actually be a problem. And hopefully the person with the disability can pick up on that, or there's going to be an ally around that can assist with that. You're not, getting taken advantage of or being bullied without even realizing that you are, because the person's in certain language or tones that aren't being picked up on. It's something horrible to see. So we hope that at least someone's there to assist with that if the person with the disability is not realizing that's what's going on.
And wording's important as well.
Oh, definitely. If we go back to being on the spectrum, if tone or sarcasm or however you accentuate a word changes the meaning of it, then I guess being selective about the words is important, because the English language is complex. You think of the word sick, for instance, can have double meanings. It could mean you're physically ill, and it can also mean that something's cool or awesome. Like that. That's so confusing. So if you don't get the context or tone correctly, you could completely interpret that differently than the next person. So if that's something that a person with a disability doesn't pick up, those tones or the context of it, they could interpret a situation extremely different than how it was intended. Yeah, so wording in that case, that could be a good starting point. You're regularly interacting with people on the spectrum, that being selective about your wording and basically picking words that mean what they mean and don't have double meanings to prevent confusion or misinterpretation.
And also words that aren't offensive, like spastic and the W one.
Yeah, for sure. They're words, think of...
very old-fashioned.
They're old-fashioned. I definitely think they've kind of been eradicated from most people. Vernacular. I think some people may use it, but not for the right context. Like, they may not actually mean it in that way. Like, for a lack of better word, people might often say, oh, that's gay. But they don't actually mean, like, oh, that's homophobic or homosexual. It's just a slur that means something's not cool, which is, again, it's offensive, but people I feel like only use those words now incorrectly. Like, I don't think not many people are referring to someone that might have Down syndrome as being retarded, but I think some people still use that word to describe something different. Like, they go, oh, that movie was retarded, like it was bad, basically. But so it doesn't mean what it's meant to mean, but I guess we shouldn't use them. But I don't think too many people are actually targeting someone that is that word and then labeling that. I think it's just getting used out of context incorrectly, which is still inappropriate.
Well, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the discussion. Thought it would be an interesting topic to talk about. If you want us to talk about anything, leave a comment down below. As always, you are awesome. Keep being awesome and see you in the next video. Bye bye.